Always try to pray in tongues while kneeling for a good reason. I obviously don't know your favorite style of praying in tongues, but I'm going to explain to you the three most common praying in tongues styles and their spiritual meaning, and why you should always try to pray in tongues while kneeling. The first style, praying in tongues while standing or walking around. So this is a position that I typically refer to as the servant position. And I call it the servant position because when servants are speaking to their masters, usually they speak while they are standing and their masters are seated. And so this praying in tongues position is a sign in the spirit that God is your master and you are his servant. So basically this is good if you are praying to God as a servant and God as your master, or you as a servant and God as your king. The second position, I call it the friend position. This friend position is where you pray in tongues while seated. I call it the friend position because friends, when they are talking to their friends, they usually sit. And sitting usually shows that you are at the same level with the person that you are speaking to. And so when you pray while seated, in the spirit, it shows that you are at the same level with God. And while that may look like a bad thing, or it may look like you are exalting yourself more than where you should be, it's actually a good thing. Because remember, Moses was a friend of God. And so Moses was justified to speak to God while seated. At the same time, Jesus Christ tells us in the Bible that he no longer calls us servants but friends. So we are actually friends of God. And that is why this position of praying in tongues while seated is acceptable. The third position, I call it the Christ position. And this is where you pray in tongues while kneeling. I call it the Christ position because this is by far the best praying in tongues position. And it is the best praying in tongues position because of how much significance it holds in the spiritual realm. When you pray to God in tongues while kneeling, it shows to God that what? You are humbling yourself before the Lord. And humility is what? A sign of Christ. And so basically you are making yourself like Christ, because Christ humbled himself, that though he was God, he counted himself not equal to God, that is, not equal to be a friend of God, but rather chose to humble himself before God and become a servant. And so it is a huge sign. Because of that, God exalted him to sit at his right hand. So basically, when you pray while kneeling, that is exactly what you're also doing. Exactly the same thing that Christ did. And that's why God will greatly exalt you.